let's start discovering how to move, rotate or scale objects in 3ds Max. On main toolbar we have these three tools. This is move, to be more technical it's called select and move, that allows you to select objects that then you want to move. Then we have select and rotate and select and scale. When we select and move, basically we have this symbol appearing here that is our transformation gizmo, and first easy thing that we can do is we can simply left click on one of these three arrows. There are X, Y and Z axes, and we can left click and drag objects along these directions. We can also click with our mouse in these areas where we see two axes highlighted at the same time, and this will give us the possibility to move objects in two axes at the same time. This way to move objects is fairly quick, but not as precise as we can imagine. So when we use move as well as when we use rotate, and then in a second I will show you even when you use scale, you can work with your left button of your mouse, so you can simply left click and drag in these axes in order to transform your objects, and this is true for all the transformations. So even with scale you can choose to scale all three axes if you click in the center, one axis at a time, or two axes only. Okay? But if you want, when you select one of your transformation tool, down here in these three numeric fields that are appearing in 3ds Max, you can also type in your wanted transformations in two slightly different ways, because when you select move, for example, these three numbers are giving you informations about the position of your object, and to be more specific, this is the position of where the transformation gizmo is into the space. So you can see that it is slightly raised up from the top plane. These are main X and Y axes, so these are coordinates of the position of your transformation gizmo. So if you type numbers there, let's say I typed 0 for X, 0 for Y and 0 for the Z, I move my object, but technically I place it in a position by moving my object from its transformation gizmo. If I want instead just to move my object 50 centimeters on the left or 30 centimeters on the right or stuff like that, what I can easily do instead is, before typing numbers inside these three numeric fields, I can click this tiny icon, and this will change my transformation values from absolute to offset. So now if I want to move my object, let's say along Y axis, and I want to move it along the same direction that is where the arrow is pointing, I can just type how much I want to move it, let's say 20 centimeters. And my object, no matter where it is, will be moved 20 centimeters by following the tip of this arrow. If I want to make a movement instead that is opposite to where these arrows are pointing, what I have to do is just type my value, but I have to type minus before the value that I want. So if I want to move my object left to my screen basically, so it is the opposite direction of where x-axis is pointing, I have to type -50, and my object has been moved from wherever it was 50 centimeters on the left side of the screen. What is also interesting is that these three numeric fields will change values that you can write according to the transformation tool that you select. So when I hit the rotate button, numbers that I can type inside here, as you can see, they have not more the centimeter symbol, and they are decimal degrees. So I can, for example, rotate my object 90 degrees by typing 90, and I will rotate it like that, or -45 if I want to rotate it on the opposite direction. Let's say here 180. Same thing for scale tool. What I see inside the scale tool instead is this number, and this is a percent value. So 100% means that my object is on its original size. If I want to scale it twice, I have to type 200. That actually means 200%. If I want to scale it at the half of its sides, I have to type 50%. And if I keep doing these 50%, each time I scale it half of its original size. And another way to use numeric input instead is by having these numeric fields on a pop-up menu, that is by pressing F12 on your keyboard. And the transformation type-in will give you basically same kind of tools. Again, the transformation type-in changes when you select move, rotate, or scale, and what you have is basically same exact numeric fields where you can type in your values. And let's say I select move, I select my object. In here, the only difference is that you can see both kind of input features, the absolute and the offset, on the same screen, while down here you have to click and to switch between the two modes by clicking this tiny arrow. If not, you see exactly same kind of informations. So you can either change the position of your object by changing coordinates of where your object is considered by using its transformation gizmo, or you can use the offset if you want to move it along the axis, and you will type positive values, or you will type negative values if you want to move your object on the opposite directions or of where these arrows are pointing at. Last but not least is that with all these three transformation tools, you can create duplicates of your objects, but unfortunately this can be done by using your mouse only. So let's see how to make clones. There are multiple ways to make clones in 3ds Max. Easier way is when you want to make just one clone of your object, you can simply select your object and you can type a keyboard shortcut that is CTRL+V. You take care, you don't have to press CTRL+C before, because that would be camera match, so no, absolutely not. Just select your object and press CTRL+V. You will get this dialog box where you have to mainly choose between these two options that are copy or instance. And what is a copy is basically, if you click OK, you have now two objects that are starting by being exactly the same, but when you make a copy in 3ds Max, you have two similar objects, or later we'll see even more. But if you change parameters into the Modify tab of one of these, you won't change your original object. So this is the option that is called copy. Instead, if you press CTRL+V and you select instance, and then you click OK to make one single duplicate of your object, now you will discover that no matter which of the two instances you select, if you change parameters of one of your instance, original will change as well. Okay? And no matter which parameter you select, you have just to remind that this is about parameters and not about transformation. So what it means is that if I move my object, even if it is an instance, the other one won't move. Or if I rotate one, the other won't rotate. But I can still change their parameters. Even if I scale, because scale is a transformation. So then I can still change their parameters and they will act at the same way. There's another way to make clones, so let's remove these, let's remove that. That involves transformation tools. And this simply is a feature that works by holding Shift key on your keyboard, and when you hold Shift, if you move your object, instead of moving your original object, you are going to move a clone of your selection. And when you release your left button, not only you have again the option to choose between copy or instance, but you have this additional option that says how many duplicates you want to create. And let me tell you that writing number of copies here is a little bit confusing, because you can still choose between copy or instances. So here should be technically written number of duplicates. So for example, if I make 6 duplicates, what I obtain is, starting from my first object, now I have 6 additional clones. And because I have selected the option that is instance, they all have linked parameters. So if I change the height of one of them, doesn't matter which one, I just randomly select one of these, I change its height, and they will all change together. If I do the same here, for example, I hold Shift, I move this object, I make few instances, now I can change all parameters of this object, the radius, number of segments, if I want them to be smooth or not, the amount of hemisphere, the amount of slice as well. They are all parameters and they are all linked together by the relationship that is called instance. When we create instances also into the Modify tab, we can see this icon becoming available that is called Make Unique. Make Unique simply means that from an instance, if we click this button, we can turn this object into a copy. So again, an object that starts by looking the same of all my previous objects, but now there is no more relationship between these and those. So I can change independently parameters of this object without affecting my instances. They are still there. And I said also that making duplicates is something that involves transformations, so let me delete these elements, because you are not limited in using Shift and Move inside 3ds Max. You can also use Shift and Rotate if we want to make rotated duplicates, and why not, we can also use Shift and Scale if we want to make scaled duplicates. So I can make, now look, I have my original object and I have all these scaled clones of my original one. Okay? Then, and this is a very common problem and also a question that basically all my students used to ask me, is you can't right now type dimensions or values and having clones at the same time. So into next chapter we will see how can we create duplicates and at the same time we can be extremely precise, no matter if we want to make moved, rotated or scaled clones. So we will study other tools like snaps that are here, and then we will see other slightly more complex ways to obtain duplicates. Okay? Bye for now! So, if you find this video interesting or useful, leave a like and let me know with a comment, and why not make me questions for other videos or suggestions, and why not subscribe for more videos like this. And as usual, have fun! Bye!